Hi! In this video, we'll be checking to see how accurate our simulation is by measuring the time it takes our ball to hit the ground. In order to do that, we'll need our program to check for when the ball has touched the bottom of the canvas, which we'll be considering the ground. For this, we'll need an if statement. Finally, we'll be using println to output the time it takes for the ball to hit the ground. The big question we'll be answering in this lesson is, how can we check the accuracy of our simulation? Let's review the if statement. In order to determine if and when the ball touches the ground, we'll need to use an if statement. If statements allow us to execute a section of code only if a certain test or condition is true. In order to code an if statement, we need the word if, followed by the parentheses. The test or condition goes inside the parentheses, and the code we want to execute if the condition is true goes inside the curly braces. We know the condition we want to test for in English is if the ball touched the ground. But first we need to figure out how that's written in JavaScript. Before we do that, we'll need to know which values we'll need to compare. First, let's figure out how to calculate the bottom edge of the ball's location. The function ball.getY will get us the ball's y location, which is in its center. If we add the radius to that value, that will give us the bottom edge of the ball. Remember that since the y position increases in the downward direction, we'll want to add the radius to the ball's y position instead of subtracting it. Let's see how the if-else statement applies to our simulation by coding it. So let's get coding. Starting with our previous exercise, let's go back to our update ball function. This is where we'll be checking to see if the balls hit the ground, and we'll perform the check right after we move the ball. In order to calculate the location of the bottom of the ball, we'll want to get the y location of the ball using ball.getY, and then we'll add the radius to it. Let's store the result of this calculation in a variable called ballBottom. We'll use this value as part of our condition. Next, we'll write the if statement. For the condition of our if statement, we'll be checking to see if the bottom of the ball is greater than or equal to the height of the canvas. If this condition is true, then we know the ball has hit the ground. Next, we'll figure out the code to execute when the condition is true. For this example, we'll want to output the time it took for the ball to hit the ground. We'll be using the println command for this. The println command takes one argument, which is the text we want to print. You can print out literal text by putting it in quotes, and then you can combine that text with variables by using the plus sign. If you noticed, we used a variable called elapsed time as part of the argument to our println command. We'll want to define this variable at the top of our program. We'll be using it to keep track of the time it takes for the ball to hit the ground. Let's initialize it to 0 at the start of the program. In the update ball function, we'll need to add delta time to elapsed time each time the function is called. This is a quick and easy way to write that. Delta time is the time delay between calls to the update ball function. This will give us a close approximation to the total time it takes the ball to hit the ground. Finally, after we print out the time to impact, we'll want to stop the timer for update ball so that it stops running. When we run our code, we should see the time it took for the ball to hit the ground from the time it was released.